The morning sun had just begun to rise over the tall buildings of the city. The hotel stood quietly, a tall and grand structure. But behind its shining glass doors were people who worked hard every day. Among them was a woman named Maria. Maria was a maid at the hotel. She was in her late 30s, with tired eyes, but a soft smile. Every morning she walked into the lobby with her cleaning cart, wearing her simple uniform. To the guests, she was just another worker. To her co-workers, she was someone reliable, someone who never complained. But inside, Maria often carried the weight of a hard life. That morning, she felt the same mix of tiredness and hope she always carried. Her shoes were old, her uniform neatly pressed, and her hands already sore from yesterday's work. Still, she whispered to herself, "One more day. Maria, just do your best." The hotel lobby was silent, more silent than usual. Normally, she would hear footsteps of guests, the chatter of tourists, or the ring of the front desk phone. But today, there was a strange quiet. The silence made her stop for a second. She looked around, but everything seemed normal. The guards were at their posts. The receptionist was busy on her computer, and yet there was something in the air. She shook her head, telling herself not to overthink. She pushed her cart forward and entered the hallway that led to the guest rooms. Maria began with the first room on her list. She knocked politely, waited for a response, then used her keycard to open the door. Inside was the usual Sinan unmade bed, glasses on the table, towels thrown on the floor. She sighed, rolled up her sleeves, and began her work. Her movements were practiced and smooth. Make the bed. Dust the shelves. Replace the towels. Check the bathroom. Spray the room freshener. Close the curtains. For Maria, cleaning was almost like a dance she had repeated 1,000 times. She worked quickly, knowing that many more rooms were waiting. As she worked, her mind wandered. She thought about her children, who were still sleeping at home. She thought about the school fees she had to pay, and how she would manage it this month. She thought about her sick mother, who always told her daughter, "You are stronger than you think." Maria smiled faintly at the thought. Even as her body felt heavy with fatigue, she moved to the next room. Again, she knocked. Again, silence. The door opened, and she entered. This room was different, too quiet, too empty. It felt as though no one had stayed there at all. Still, she did her duty. As she wiped the desk, she felt the cool air from the air conditioner brush against her skin. The sound of her rag moving over the surface was the only noise. The silence followed her like a shadow. Usually she could hear other maids working in nearby rooms. But now, it felt as though she was alone on the entire floor. She paused for a moment, standing still, listening. No footsteps. No voices. Only silence. Her heart gave a small, uneasy beat. But then she reminded herself, it's early. Guests are sleeping. Nothing strange, she continued. By the third room, Maria began to feel the strangeness more deeply. She knocked softly on the door, waited, then stepped inside. The curtains were drawn, leaving the room dark. As she pulled them open, sunlight flooded in, revealing a mess on the floor of broken glass. Water spilled, sheets tangled. She frowned. Guests usually left the rooms messy, but this seemed rushed, almost panicked. Still, she did her work quietly, not questioning too much. She picked up the glass carefully, wiped the water, fixed the bed. Yet inside her mind, questions stirred. Why did it feel like something happened here? Why was the hotel so quiet? Why did her heart feel restless? An hour passed. Room after room, Maria worked. Sweat began to form on her forehead, and her hands grew tired. Yet she never slowed down. Her life had trained her to keep moving, no matter how heavy the burden felt. As she pushed her cart down the long hallway, she looked ahead at the luxury suites. These rooms were different, larger, grander, and usually occupied by rich guests. Sometimes she would catch a glimpse of men in expensive suits or women with diamond jewelry walking in or out of those suites. Maria always kept her eyes low, never daring to stare too long. She knew her place. She was a maid. They were billionaires, politicians, celebrities. Her world and theirs were never meant to meet, or so she thought. Maria stopped at the door of one of the grand suites. The golden plaque on the door shined under the hallway lights. She reached for her cleaning cloth, preparing to knock. When her hand froze, there was a sign on the door, "Do not disturb." She hesitated. Normally, this meant she should skip the room. But her list clearly showed this suite needed service. Sometimes guests forgot to remove the sign, and she had to check. She leaned closer, pressing her ear against the door. At first, she heard nothing. Silence again, but then a sound, faint, a soft, broken whisper. Her eyes widened. She stepped back quickly, looking up and down the hallway. No one else was around. She felt her chest tighten. Maybe I imagined it, she thought. But deep inside, she knew she hadn't. The hotel, the silence, the strange feeling, it was all building toward something. Maria stood frozen at the door, her hand trembling on the handle. She whispered to herself, "It's just another room. Just another room." But her heart told her this was not going to be an ordinary day. Maria stood in the hallway, staring at the golden plaque on the suite door. The "Do Not Disturb" sign swayed slightly, as if it had been touched recently. Her heart beat faster. She knew the rule. Maids should not enter when the sign was out. But something inside told her this was not a normal situation. She tightened her grip on the cleaning cart. Her fingers trembled. What if I'm wrong? What if someone complains? What if I lose this job? The thought of losing her job sent a wave of fear through her chest. This job was her only lifeline. It kept food on the table for her children. It kept the rent paid. But then she remembered the sound she thought she had heard, a faint whisper, like someone calling out in pain. It echoed in her memory. Refusing to let her ignore it, Maria knocked gently. "Housekeeping," she called softly. No answer. She knocked again, louder this time. "Housekeeping. Is anyone inside?" Still silence. The quiet was so deep it pressed on her ears. The entire hallway seemed to hold its breath. Maria looked around. Empty. No staff. No guests. Just her and the locked door. Her hand hovered over the handle. She whispered to herself, "It's just another room. Maria, just another room." But her body refused to move away. At last she slid her key card into the slot. The light blinked green and the lock clicked open. The door creaked as she pushed it slowly. A wave of cold air escaped, brushing her face like a warning. Inside, the suite was dark. The curtains were drawn tight. A smell of perfume mixed with something else, something sharp, like sweat and fear. Maria stepped in carefully, her shoes making the softest sounds on the carpet. She whispered again, almost to herself, "Housekeeping." No answer. But then she heard it. A sound, a soft broken moan. Her eyes widened. She turned her head quickly, trying to locate it. The noise came from deeper inside the room, past the luxurious couches and golden lamps. Down the short hallway that led to the bedroom, Maria's legs felt weak. Every step forward was heavy, like walking through water. She gripped her cloth tightly, as if it could protect her. As she moved closer, the sound grew clearer. It was a voice, faint, desperate. "Help, please." Her breath caught in her throat. Maria froze. For a moment, fear chained her to the spot. She wanted to run out of the room, call security, call anyone. But another thought struck her. What if someone inside is in real danger? Her conscience battled with her fear. She thought of her own children. If they were in pain and no one helped, how would she feel? That thought gave her courage. She stepped forward again. The bedroom door was half open. Through the gap, she could see shadows moving, restless and uneven. Her heart pounded in her chest. Sweat slid down her back. She pushed the door wider, and then it happened. A loud, panicked voice exploded in the air. "Help. Someone, please. My wife, she's having the baby now." Maria jumped back, her body shaking. Her eyes darted to the source of the voice. Inside the room stood a tall man in an expensive suit. His face red with fear, his hands trembling as he held a woman lying on the bed. The woman was pale, sweating, clutching her stomach, her cries filling the room. The man's voice broke again. "Please, somebody do something." Maria's world spun. She had stepped into something far greater than she could have imagined. This was no ordinary guest. This was a billionaire, and his wife was about to give birth here. In the hotel suite, Maria stood frozen at the doorway, her mind screaming with panic. She was just a maid. How could she handle this? And yet, deep inside, something whispered back to her. You are the only one here. You must act. The ordinary day was gone. The quiet hotel, the silence. The strange feeling, it all led to this moment. Maria's life was about to change. Forever. Maria's heart hammered in her chest. She had never heard a voice filled with so much fear, so much desperation. The tall man in the suit, the billionaire, was shouting at her, his eyes wide, his face pale. "Please, my wife, she's in labor. It's happening too fast. We need help now." For a moment, Maria could not move. Her legs felt like stone. She had cleaned hundreds of rooms in this hotel, faced angry guests, rude customers, broken glasses, even small accidents. But never this. Never something. Her eyes shifted to the woman on the bed. The billionaire's wife was lying there, sweat soaking her forehead, her lips trembling as cries escaped her throat. Her hands clutched the blanket, twisting it in pain. Her breathing was uneven, sharp, and heavy. Maria's chest tightened. She thought about her own mother, who had once told her about the pain of childbirth. She remembered the story of her neighbor back in the village. A woman who had given birth at home because the doctor arrived too late. That memory filled Maria with both fear and determination. The billionaire's voice cracked again. "Why are you just standing there? Do something." Maria flinched. She wanted to explain. She was only a maid, not a nurse, not a doctor. But when she opened her mouth, no words came. She could only stare at the terrified man and his suffering wife. Her mind raced. What should I do? Call the doctor? Call security? Run? Stay? She forced her body to move. She rushed to the phone on the bedside table and grabbed it. She pressed the button for the front desk. No tone. She tried again. Nothing. Her stomach dropped. The storm outside had knocked out the line. Maria's hands trembled as she put the phone down slowly. The billionaire was staring at her, expecting her to bring help instantly. She could see the fear in his eyes turning into anger. "What are you doing?" he shouted. "My wife is in pain. She's going to have the baby now. We can't wait. Do something." Maria's knees nearly buckled. She felt small, powerless. But then she looked at the woman again. The wife's face twisted with another wave of pain, her cry filling the room like a knife cutting through silence. Maria's heart softened. She could not turn away. Even if she had no training, even if she was just a maid, she was still a woman, a mother, a human being. She took a deep breath. "Sir," she said softly, her voice shaking. "The phone is not working. I will go for help." The billionaire's eyes widened. He shook his head quickly, gripping her arm. "No, don't leave us. She cannot be alone right now. If you go, what if something happens?" Maria froze. He was right. The woman was in the middle of labor. She needed someone beside her every second. Maria swallowed hard. Her throat felt dry. She looked again at the wife, who groaned loudly, clutching her belly. Maria's hands curled into fists. Inside, a battle raged. "I am just a maid. I don't know what to do. But if I walk away, she may die. If I stay, maybe I can help until real help arrives." She remembered her grandmother's voice. "Sometimes, courage is not about what you know. It is about what you are willing to do." Maria lifted her chin slightly. Her voice was firmer this time. "I will not leave. I will stay. I will help." The billionaire stared at her, as if unable to believe the words. His lips parted, but no sound came out. He only nodded quickly, his eyes shining with a mix of fear and hope. Maria moved closer to the woman on the bed. She reached out, gently taking her hand. The wife's fingers were ice-cold, trembling. Maria squeezed them softly, whispering, "It's okay. I'm here. You are not alone." The woman's eyes fluttered open for a second. She looked at Maria with tears, then closed them again, letting out another painful cry. Maria sat beside her, feeling her own heart race faster and faster. She had stepped into a moment she could never have imagined. The maid who thought it was just another room was now standing at the edge of a life-changing event, and the night was only beginning. Maria had never stepped into a room like this before. She had cleaned luxury suites, yes, but never under such a storm of panic. The Billionaire suite was unlike the smaller rooms she usually worked in. The chandelier sparkled above, golden lamps glowed against the cream-colored walls, silk curtains draped from the tall windows. Every corner spoke of wealth-polished marble floors, velvet chairs, art pieces worth more than her yearly salary. Yet tonight the room felt like a battlefield. The air was heavy with fear. The Billionaire, a man who was used to commanding boardrooms and controlling millions of dollars, now looked powerless. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his hair disheveled, his forehead covered in sweat. He paced around the bed like a trapped lion. "Where are the doctors? Why is no one coming?" His voice shook with desperation. On the bed, his wife cried out again, clutching her stomach, her body twisting with the pain of labor. Her hair stuck to her forehead, her lips dry, her eyes shut tight. She looked fragile, almost like a bird caught in a storm. Maria stood frozen for a moment, taking it all in. This was not the world she belonged to. This was the world of billionaires, of wealth and power. She was only a maid. And yet at this moment, they all stood equal, bound by fear, bound by human weakness. She took a step closer. Her heart pounded loudly, but her voice came out soft. "Sir, please. You need to stay calm. She needs you." The Billionaire turned sharply, his eyes red. "Calm. Look at her. She's in pain. I don't know what to do." His voice cracked. The weight of helplessness breaking through his pride. Maria had never seen such raw fear in a man so powerful. His wealth, his name, his influence, none of it mattered here. Only love, only life mattered. She swallowed, trying to steady her own trembling voice. "Sir, listen to me. If you panic, she will panic more. You must hold her hand. You must let her feel that she is not alone." For a moment, he hesitated. Then he rushed back to his wife, kneeling beside her, holding her hand tightly. His lips trembled as he whispered, "I'm here, my love. I'm here. Please be strong." The woman groaned, clutching his fingers. Tears rolled down her cheeks. Maria stood close, watching her own heart twisting. She remembered her past again nights, when she sat by her sick mother's bed, holding her hand, whispering the same words. "You are not alone." The Billionaire looked at Maria suddenly, his eyes pleading. "What do we do now?" "She can't wait. She's in labor. She's going to deliver here, isn't she?" Maria's breath caught. She wanted to deny it, to say help was on the way. But deep inside, she knew the truth. The storm had blocked the phones. The hospital was far. The woman's cries were growing louder, sharper. The baby was coming. Her palms grew damp. She took a step back, gripping the edge of the nightstand. Fear screamed inside her head. "You don't know what to do." "You will fail. You are just a maid." But another voice pushed through, strong and steady. "If you do nothing, she will suffer. If you try, maybe you can save them." Maria's lips parted. Her voice trembled, but she forced herself to speak. "Sir, we cannot wait for doctors. We must prepare. Right here. Right now." The Billionaire's face went pale. "Prepare, you mean?" "She's going to. Here." Maria nodded slowly. Her own knees shook, but she kept her gaze firm. "Yes, and we must be ready. Together." The man's eyes filled with tears. He pressed his forehead against his wife's hand. His pride shattered completely in that moment. He was no longer a billionaire, just a husband, a man begging for a miracle. Maria took a deep breath. She had cleaned rooms her whole life. But tonight, she would have to do more. She would have to fight fear itself, and deep in her heart, she prayed silently, God, guide me. Give me strength. Let me not fail. Maria stood at the edge of the grand suite's bed, her fingers clutching the hem of her apron. She could feel her heartbeat in her throat, pounding so loudly it drowned out almost every other sound. The billionaire's wife screamed again, her voice raw with pain. The sound tore through the air, echoing in Maria's ears. It wasn't just noise, it was desperation. It's a cry of a woman fighting against her own body, against time. Maria's knees weakened. She wanted to run out of the room to find someone, anyone more capable. But the truth hit her like a wave of cold water. There was no one else. No doctors, no nurses, no ambulance. Just her eyes darted toward the billionaire. He was kneeling at his wife's side, his forehead wet with sweat, his expensive shirt clinging to his body. His eyes were wide with fear, but behind that fear, Maria saw something else. Helplessness. He had all the money in the world, all the power anyone could dream of. Yet right now, he was as powerless as a child, and he was looking at her for help. Maria's throat tightened. Why me? I'm just a maid. I clean beds. I scrub bathrooms. I don't bring babies into the world. Her hands trembled. She pressed them together, trying to stop the shaking, but it didn't work. A drop of sweat slid down her temple. Mixing with the tears she didn't even realize had filled her eyes, the woman on the bed gasped, grabbing at the sheets, her voice breaking. It hurts. It hurts so much. Maria swallowed hard, her chest aching. She wanted to whisper comfort, but fear choked her voice. She could only stand there, staring at the life-and-death struggle happening before her. Her mind spun with questions. What if I do something wrong? What if I make it worse? What if she dies because of me? Every horrible thought rushed through her head. She imagined the woman's cries fading into silence. She imagined the billionaire's rage if he lost his wife and child. She imagined losing her job, being blamed, being thrown out with nothing. Maria gripped the edge of the dresser to steady herself. Her legs shook so badly, she thought she might fall. She was terrified, truly, deeply terrified. For a moment, Maria closed her eyes. She tried to block out the panic, to breathe. Her grandmother's voice came to her again, faint like a whisper from long ago. Child, courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is walking forward even when... Her breath hitched. She whispered silently to herself, I'm afraid, but I can't leave her. I can't leave them. When she opened her eyes, the billionaire was staring at her, his lips trembling. Please, he begged. Please, help us. I don't know what to do. I'll give you money, anything, but don't let her die. Maria's chest clenched. She had never seen such vulnerability in a man like him. He wasn't offering money with pride, he was offering it with desperation. And Maria realized he wasn't just asking for help, he was trusting her. That terrified her even more. She stepped closer, slowly, as if every step weighed 100 pounds. She reached out, her hand hovering above the woman's shoulder. Finally, she placed it gently, whispering, You are not alone. I am here. The woman turned her face slightly, her tear-filled eyes meeting Maria's. In that instant, Maria saw raw fear, pain, and helplessness, motions that needed no words. And something shifted inside Maria. Yes, she was afraid. Yes, she was untrained. But this was no time to run. She had no choice but to stand, to fight her fear, and to do whatever she could. Her fear did not vanish. It lingered, heavy and dark. But Maria took a deep breath and said to the billionaire, We must prepare, quickly. Towels, water, anything clean. The billionaire blinked, confused for a moment, then scrambled to his feet. He grabbed towels, sheets, anything Maria asked for, as she directed him. Maria's voice still shook, but each word gave her a small spark of strength. I am afraid, she thought, but I will not let fear decide. The billionaire's wife cried again, louder this time. The sound made Maria's spine tingle with terror. She had never heard such a cry in her life. But instead of stepping back, she held the woman's hand tighter. Maria whispered. Though her own fear threatened to break her voice, "You are strong. You can do this. I will not leave you." And in that moment, Maria realized, sometimes fear never goes away, but courage meant staying anyway. Maria's hands trembled as she wiped sweat from her forehead with the back of her sleeve. The room was filled with the sound of heavy breathing, the billionaire's wife gasping in pain, and the desperate mutterings of her husband. Maria's mind raced. She could not do this alone. She needed help, real help. A doctor, a nurse, anyone. She spotted the landline telephone again on the nightstand and rushed to it. She picked it up, pressing the button for the front desk. She waited. No sound. Just dead silence. Her chest tightened. She pressed again, and again, nothing. "No, this can't be," she whispered, her voice shaking. She slammed the receiver down and grabbed it again, pressing random buttons this time, hoping something would connect. But the storm outside had silenced the entire line. The billionaire noticed. He rushed toward her, his face pale. What happened? Are they coming? Maria shook her head, her lips trembling. The phone. It's dead. His eyes widened. Dead? No? No, that's impossible. This is a 5-star hotel. How can the phones be dead? Maria's voice cracked. The storm. It must have cut the line. The billionaire's face twisted, his pride and power crumbling further. He slammed his fist against the wall in frustration, then turned back to his wife, who let out another loud scream of pain. Maria's heart pounded harder. If the phone was dead, there was only one option left. Go out, run down the hall, and find someone. Security, front desk, another maid dash anyone. She spun toward the door, her feet ready to sprint, but then the billionaire's voice stopped her. No. Don't leave us. Maria froze. He was standing by the bed, his hand gripping his wife's tightly, his face twisted with panic. What if she needs you and you're not here? What if something happens when you're gone? Please, please don't go. Maria's breath caught. Her instincts screamed at her to run and find help, but his words chained her in place. She looked at the woman on the bed, crying, shaking, holding on to life with every breath. If Maria left now, even for a few minutes, what if something happened? What if the baby came suddenly? What if the mother's life slipped away in those short moments? The billionaire's voice cracked. Please don't leave me alone with this. I can't do this without you. Maria's throat tightened. For a moment her vision blurred with tears. She had never felt so torn in her life. Every part of her wanted to scream, "What am I supposed to do?" She thought, "I am only a maid. I don't know how to save lives. I don't know how to deliver a baby. Why is this happening to me?" Her hands pressed against her chest as she struggled to breathe. But then her grandmother's words came back again, soft like a whisper in her memory. Sometimes life does not ask if you are ready. Sometimes it simply calls your name. And when it does, you must answer. Maria's eyes burned. She looked at the terrified husband, then at the suffering wife. She knew she could not leave. She swallowed, forcing strength into her trembling voice. "Okay, I won't go. I'll stay." The billionaire's shoulders sagged in relief. He nodded quickly, though tears streamed down his face. Maria took another shaky breath. She turned to the bathroom, running the tap. The water gushed out. She grabbed towels and soap, her hands moving automatically, almost against her will. Her fear was still there, heavy and suffocating, but her body moved anyway. Because if she did nothing, if she froze, then 2 lives could be lost tonight. As she wrung out a towel, her reflection in the bathroom mirror caught her attention. For a second, she did not recognize herself. She did not see a maid in a uniform. She saw a woman on the edge of something extraordinary. A woman standing in the middle of fear and courage. She whispered to herself, so quietly no one could hear, "Please God, give me strength. Don't let me fail them." And with that, Maria carried the towels back into the bedroom. The billionaire looked up at her, his face desperate. "What now? What do we do?" Maria's lips trembled, but she forced the words out. We prepare. Together. The husband nodded, gripping his wife's hand tighter, and Maria realized there was no more waiting for help. They were the help. The storm outside raged like an angry beast, its thunder shaking the tall glass windows of the suite. Lightning cracked across the night sky, lighting up the room for brief, terrifying seconds. The sound of rain hammered against the glass, like 1,000 desperate fists knocking all at once. But inside the room, another storm was louder. The billionaire's wife let out a scream that pierced Maria's soul. It wasn't just panic, it was agony, the kind that left no space for words. Her voice trembled, then broke into sobs. She clutched her stomach, her whole body shaking with each wave of pain that tore through her. Maria froze, her hands tightening around the towels she held. Her heart jumped to her throat. The husband leaned closer to his wife, stroking her damp hair, whispering frantically, "Hold on, my love. Please, just hold on." His voice cracked with each word, his eyes wild with fear. Maria felt her own knees weaken. She wanted to close her ears, to run from the screams, but she couldn't. Her feet stayed rooted to the floor. Every cry from the woman seemed to reach inside her chest, twisting her heart tighter. The pain in the woman's face was unbearable to watch her clenched teeth, her trembling lips, her tear-soaked cheeks. Maria whispered softly, almost to herself, "She can't take this much longer." Another cry ripped through the air. The woman clutched at the sheets, pulling them so hard the fabric nearly tore. Her voice shook the silence between the thunder. Maria stumbled forward, kneeling by the bedside. She took the woman's cold, trembling hand into hers. "Breathe. Please, just breathe. You're not alone." The woman's eyes opened slightly, her gaze unfocused, her lips pale. "It hurts. It hurts so much." Maria's own eyes blurred with tears. She squeezed her hand tighter. I know it does. But you're strong. Stronger than you think. Don't give up. Please don't give up." Her words wavered, but she forced them out anyway, because silence was worse. Silence meant giving in to fear. The billionaire looked at Maria with desperation. His voice was low, almost broken. "She's getting weaker. What do we do? What do we do?" Maria's chest ached. She didn't have the answers. She wasn't a doctor. She wasn't trained. But the cries of the woman told her one thing. Time was running out. She pressed a damp towel gently to the woman's forehead, wiping away the sweat. The billionaire mirrored her, following her lead as if clinging to her calmness. However fragile it was, the woman cried out again, louder, her whole body arching in pain. The sound echoed through the walls, drowning even the thunder. Maria felt her insides twist. She wanted to scream herself to release the terror building inside her chest, but she bit down hard on her lip, forcing herself to stay. She leaned closer, whispering, "Every cry means the baby is closer. Every cry means you are fighting. You're not alone. I'm right here." The woman's sobs softened into gasps. She looked at Maria, her eyes pleading, as if searching for strength. Maria nodded quickly, her own tears falling freely now. "Yes. Look at me. Don't let go. We will get through this." The billionaire's hand tightened on his wife's. His voice shook as he whispered, "I love you, please. Please hold on for me." The woman let out another cry of pain, but this time her voice was mixed with determination. Maria felt a flicker of hope. Pain meant life. Pain meant the baby was. But then a terrifying thought struck her. What if she failed? What if her efforts weren't enough? Her heart pounded, but she forced herself to push the fear aside. She could not show weakness. Not now. She whispered again, louder this time. "You are strong. You are brave. Your child is waiting for you. Hold on. Just hold on." The room was filled with cries of pain, cries of fear, cries of love, and Maria, though terrified herself, became the voice holding it all together. The storm outside had not slowed. The thunder rolled endlessly, shaking the walls, as if the sky itself was warning them of what was coming. Inside the suite, Maria sat on the edge of the bed, her hands gripping the damp towel, her eyes locked on the woman's face. Every second felt heavier than the last. The billionaire's wife let out a sharp cry, clutching her stomach with both hands. Her body bent forward, her face twisted with unbearable pain. Maria leaned in closer, her voice trembling but steady enough to be heard. "Tell me, what do you feel? Where's the pain?" The woman gasped, trying to breathe through the storm in her body. It's lower. It feels like something is pushing down." Maria's heart skipped a beat. She had heard enough stories, seen enough films, and remembered enough whispers from older women in her family to recognize it. Her breath caught in her throat. "The baby. It's coming." She froze for a moment, her blood running cold. The air seemed to thicken around her, pressing in until she could barely breathe. The billionaire noticed her hesitation. His eyes widened, his voice shaking. "What is it? What's happening? Tell me." Maria swallowed hard, her lips dry, her voice quiet. I think. The baby is close." The husband's face drained of color. His eyes darted to his wife, then back to Maria. No, not here. Not like this." His voice cracked, breaking into panic. He ran a hand through his hair, tugging at it as if trying to wake himself from a nightmare. His wife screamed again, louder, more desperate. Her voice filled the room, bouncing off the walls. Maria's heart pounded. Fear clawed at her insides, but she couldn't let it show. She had to act. Even if her hands shook and her voice cracked, she pressed the towel against the woman's forehead, whispering, "It's okay. You're not alone. Breathe with me, slowly in and out." In and out. The woman tried, gasping between cries. Each breath was ragged, but she followed Maria's rhythm. Maria turned her head quickly toward the billionaire. "We must prepare now. Clean sheets. Boil water if you can. We don't have time to wait." He blinked at her, stunned. "Prepare? For what?" Maria forced herself to look him straight in the eye even as her knees trembled. "For the baby. The baby is coming tonight, and we must be ready." For a moment, silence filled the room, broken only by the woman's cries and the thunder. Outside, the billionaire's chest rose and fell rapidly. He looked like a man who had lost everything: his certainty, his power, his control. But then he nodded quickly, his hands fumbling as he rushed to obey. He tore the clean sheets from the wardrobe, spread them out on the floor in bed, his movements clumsy but desperate. He grabbed bottles of water from the minibar, handing them to Maria like a soldier bringing weapons to a commander. Maria took them with shaking hands. She didn't know exactly what she was doing. She knew one thing. She could not freeze now. The woman on the bed let out another scream, louder than before. Her voice cracked, echoing through the suite. It wasn't just panic, it was the sound of life pushing forward, refusing to wait. Maria's chest tightened. She had never been more afraid in her life. But she also knew this was the moment her grandmother's words had prepared her for. Even if she had never understood them until now. Sometimes life calls your name, and when it does, you must answer. Maria wiped her tears with the back of her hand, leaned closer to the woman, and whispered with as much strength as she could gather, "You are not alone. Your baby is coming, and we will face this together." The woman gasped for air, her eyes wide with terror, but she nodded weakly. She gripped Maria's hand like it was the only thing keeping her anchored to the world. The billionaire stood beside them, his face pale, his hands trembling, but his eyes burning with fear and love. And in that moment, Maria realized something. This night would not wait. The baby was coming. And nothing, not the storm, not the silence of the dead phones, not their fear could stop it. The storm outside shook the windows so fiercely that Maria feared the glass might break. The room felt smaller now, as if the walls themselves were closing in. The air was thick with heat, sweat, and fear. The billionaire's wife screamed again, clutching her swollen belly. Her face turned pale, her lips dry and trembling. Each cry cut through Maria's chest like a blade. Maria knelt beside her, holding her hand tightly. "Breathe. Please breathe," she whispered, her voice breaking but steady enough to guide. The woman gasped for air, shaking her head. "It hurts. I can't. I can't do this." Maria squeezed her hand harder, her own tears blurring her vision. "Yes, you can. You're stronger than this pain. Don't give up now." Another cry tore from the woman's throat, raw and desperate. She bent forward. Clutching the sheet so tightly that her knuckles turned white, the billionaire stood on the other side of the bed, his face wet with sweat and tears. He whispered frantically, "Stay with me. Love, please. Please stay with me." His voice cracked, his power and pride shattered. He looked at Maria, his eyes begging. "What do we do? Tell me what to do." Maria's chest tightened. She had no training, no plan, only scraps of memory-old stories from women in her village, hushed whispers about childbirth. But she couldn't let them see her fear. She forced her voice steady. "Hold her hand. Don't let go. Speak to her. She needs your strength." The billionaire obeyed instantly, gripping his wife's trembling fingers. His voice shook as he whispered, "I'm here. I will not leave you." The woman cried out again, louder, her body shaking with the force of her contractions. The sound filled the room, drowning even the thunder outside. Maria felt her knees weaken, but she stayed, pressing a damp towel to the woman's forehead, wiping away the sweat. Her hands shook, but she forced them to move anyway. The woman gasped between cries, her eyes wide with fear. Something is happening. It feels like I need to push." Maria's heart froze. The baby was close. Her mind screamed with panic, but her lips whispered courage. "Then we must be ready. Don't be afraid. Your baby is almost here." The billionaire's breath hitched. His lips trembled. "So soon?" Maria nodded, though her stomach twisted in fear. "Yes, we must help her now." The woman let out another scream, louder than all before, her body arching in pain. Her cry shook Maria to her very core. For a moment, Maria wanted to collapse, to cover her ears and run far away. But she couldn't. The woman's trembling hand was still gripping hers, holding on to her like a lifeline. Maria leaned closer, whispering fiercely, "Listen to me. You are not alone. You are strong. Every push brings your baby closer. You can do this. We will do this together." The woman sobbed, shaking her head. But Maria's voice cut through her despair like a thread of light in the dark. The billionaire broke into tears. His forehead pressed against his wife's hand. "I can't lose you. Please, don't leave me," the woman gasped, her voice cracking. I'm trying." Maria swallowed her own fear, holding back her sobs. She couldn't break down now. Not when everything depended on her courage. She steadied her trembling hands, laid the clean towels across the bed, and whispered more to herself than anyone else. "The struggle has begun. We must fight it together." And in that moment, Maria, the maid who thought it was just another ordinary day, stood at the center of a battle between life and death. The night grew heavier. The storm outside howled like a wild animal, its fury rattling the windows. Each crash of thunder shook the suite. But inside, another storm was far more terrifying. The billionaire's wife let out a cry so raw, so piercing that Maria's whole body shook. The sound was not only pain, it was desperation, as if her very soul was being torn apart. Maria pressed a towel to the woman's forehead, her hands trembling. "Breathe. Please breathe," she whispered. But her own breath was shallow, her chest tight with fear. The woman's eyes fluttered, half closed. Her voice came out weak, broken. I can't anymore. I can't." Maria's heart froze. She leaned closer, gripping her hand tightly. "Don't say that. You must." The billionaire, kneeling on the other side of the bed, broke into sobs. His voice cracked as he whispered, "Stay with me. Please, don't leave me. Don't leave us." His wife turned her pale face toward him, tears streaming down her cheeks. "I'm so tired. So tired. Maria's throat tightened. Fear screamed inside her. What if this was the end? What if she lost the mother and the baby both? She could already imagine the silence that would fall if the cries stopped. The thought sent shivers down her spine. The billionaire shook his head wildly, gripping his wife's hand with both of his. No, don't say that. You are the strongest woman I know. You promised me we'd raise this child together. Please. Don't break that promise. The woman sobbed, gasping for air, another contraction ripping through her. She screamed again, her voice hoarse, before collapsing back against the pillows. Maria's panic grew. She had seen exhaustion before, but this was different. This was the breaking point. The moment where She grabbed a clean towel, pressing it to the woman's forehead. Listen to me, Maria whispered, her voice trembling but firm. You are stronger than this pain. You don't know how strong you are until life asks it of you. Don't give up. Not now. The woman's half-closed eyes flickered. Meeting Maria's, for a brief second, Maria thought she saw a spark weak. But still there. The billionaire cried openly now, his forehead resting against his wife's hand. He whispered between sobs, "Take me instead, please. Take me, not her." Maria's chest ached at the sound of his broken words. This was no longer the voice of a billionaire, no longer the voice of a man of power. It was the voice of a husband begging for his wife's life. Another contraction tore through the woman. She screamed again, her voice so strained it cracked in the middle. Her body arched, then collapsed back. Trembling, Maria wiped her tears quickly. She couldn't fall apart. Not now. She leaned closer, whispering urgently, "Every scream means your baby is closer. Every push is a step. Don't stop now. You are almost there. Please. Fight a little longer." The woman shook her head weakly, whispering, "I can't. I can't do this." Maria's grip tightened. Her own tears fell onto the woman's hand as she whispered fiercely, "Yes, you can. Because this baby needs you. Your husband needs you. And her voice broke, "I need you to fight, please." The billionaire lifted his head, his eyes red, his voice desperate. "You're my everything. Don't leave me with only memories. Stay, please." "Stay," the woman cried out again, her body convulsing with the force of the contraction. Her scream echoed like thunder through the suite. Maria realized this was it. The breaking point. The moment that would decide everything. She whispered to herself, though her voice trembled, "God, give me strength. Don't let her slip away." And as the storm raged outside, the three of them held on to each other, one woman fighting for her life, one man begging for her survival, and one maid trembling with fear but refusing to let go. The night was far from over. But Maria knew, if they could survive this breaking point, there was still hope. Maria wiped her face with the back of her sleeve. Her tears had mixed with sweat, but she couldn't let either stop her now. The cries of the woman on the bed, the desperate pleas of her husband, and the storm's violent roar outside all merged into one overwhelming sound. Her heart screamed with fear. But another voice inside her grew louder. "If not you, then who?" The billionaire's wife lay back against the pillows, trembling, her breathing ragged. Her eyes fluttered as if she was drifting in and out of consciousness. Maria felt panic grip her throat, but she fought it down. She leaned closer, her voice firmer than before. "Stay with me. Don't close your eyes. Look at me. You are stronger than this." The woman blinked weakly, her gaze searching. And Maria held her hand tighter. The billionaire's hands shook as he pressed them to his wife's face. "What do we do? Tell me, Maria. What do we do?" His voice cracked, no longer commanding, no longer proud. Maria swallowed hard. For the first time in her life, she was the one giving orders to someone who had always been above her world. She took a shaky breath and said, "Listen to me. We prepare for the baby. Now, no hesitation." The billionaire blinked, stunned, as if he had never been spoken to that way by anyone, let alone a maid. But desperation made him obey. He nodded quickly. "Tell me what you need." Maria pointed to the wardrobe. Bring more clean sheets. Fold them and place them here. She motioned to the foot of the bed. He rushed to obey, pulling out the sheets with clumsy hands, his movements frantic but eager to follow. Maria turned to the bathroom. Fill bowls with warm water. We will need them clean. Again, he obeyed, running back and forth, his expensive shoes slipping slightly on the polished floor. Maria's hands shook as she arranged the towels, but her voice grew steadier with each word. We must keep everything clean. The baby will need warmth. The billionaire paused, staring at her with wide eyes. It was as if in that moment she was no longer just a maid in a uniform. She was the only one holding the threads of life together. The woman let out another cry, her voice breaking into sobs. She arched her back, clutching the sheets, her body trembling. Maria rushed back to her side, holding her hand tightly. Breathe. Focus on me. In, out, in. Out, she demonstrated, breathing slowly, guiding her like a teacher. The woman gasped, following Maria's rhythm. Her breathing steadied slightly, though her body still shook with pain. Maria whispered, That's it. You're doing it. Every breath is a step closer. The billionaire returned with the bowls of water, his shirt soaked with sweat. Here. What now? Maria's mind raced, pulling fragments of memory, advice she had once overheard from older women. She spoke as if she knew, even though she trembled inside. Keep the towels warm. She must not get cold, and we must be ready when the baby comes. The billionaire nodded, following every word. For the first time, Maria saw herself not as a maid, but as a leader. Her voice, though soft, carried weight. Her hands, though shaking, moved with purpose. She leaned closer to the woman and whispered, You are not alone. I will not leave you. Do you hear me? I will stay until your baby is safe. Tears rolled down the woman's face. She nodded weakly, clutching Maria's hand tighter. Maria felt a strange strength rise in her chest. She was still afraid, terrified, but she refused to let fear control her anymore. The storm roared outside, thunder cracking so loudly it shook the suite. But inside, Maria's voice cut through it all. We will not give up. Not tonight. Not ever. And in that moment, Maria the maid, who had started the day with nothing but tired steps and humble work, took charge of a battle she never asked for, but could no longer escape. The hours dragged on like a cruel test. The storm outside showed no mercy, and inside the hotel suite, another storm raged, a storm of cries. Sweat, fear, and hope. Maria knelt beside the bed. Her uniform soaked, her face pale, but her eyes burning with determination. She held the billionaire's wife's trembling hand as another wave of pain ripped through her body. The woman screamed, her voice echoing off the walls. Stay with me. Breathe, Maria urged, her voice breaking but strong. The woman shook her head, tears streaming. I can't. It hurts. It hurts too much. Maria's heart ached. She wanted to cry with her, but she forced herself to stay steady. She whispered, Every scream means your baby is closer. Do not stop now. Fight with me. Fight for your child. The billionaire, standing at the other side of the bed, held his wife's hand tightly. His face was drenched in sweat, his eyes swollen from crying. Please, love, stay with me. Don't give up. I need you. Our baby needs you. The woman let out another scream, her voice hoarse, her body arching with the contraction. She clutched Maria's arm, her nails digging into the fabric. Maria didn't flinch. She let the pain remind her of the truth that this was real. This was life itself, fighting to be born. Maria whispered fiercely, You are stronger than this pain. You are stronger than you think. Push through it. The woman gasped, sobbing, but she nodded weakly. The billionaire turned to Maria, panic in his eyes. Is this normal? She looked so weak. What if Maria cut him off, her voice trembling, but firm? Do not say it. She will live. The baby will live. We will not allow any other ending. The billionaire stared at her in shock. A maid someone he would have passed by without notice on any. Other day was now the voice keeping his world from collapsing. The woman screamed again, clutching Maria's hand. Her body shook violently. Maria leaned close, whispering one more push. Just one more. You can do this, the woman sobbed. I'm scared. Maria's tears fell, landing on the woman's hand. So am I, but courage is not about being fearless. Courage is fighting even when you are scared. And right now, you are the bravest woman I have ever seen. The woman's lips trembled, but her eyes flickered with faint light. Another contraction hit. She screamed, arching, her face twisting with unbearable pain. Maria whispered, "Yes, that's it. Again, don't stop now. Your baby is almost here." The billionaire's voice broke as he cried, "Hold on, my love. Please, hold on." The room shook with thunder, the storm roaring like a beast outside, but the true battle was inside. Every breath, every cry, every push was a war between life and death. Maria felt her whole body trembling with exhaustion, but she refused to stop. She had to guide them, had to keep them moving forward. She leaned close, whispering again and again, "You are not alone. I will not let go of your hand. We are in this together." The woman gasped, pushing with the last of her strength. Her cries filled the suite. The billionaire sobbed beside her, whispering prayers, begging for mercy. Maria's heart pounded. She whispered a prayer of her own, silent but desperate. "Please, God, please, let them survive. Let the baby come safely." The woman let out one last piercing scream, her body convulsing. And then suddenly the room filled with a new sound. A sharp, high-pitched cry, the baby's cry. For a moment, the storm outside vanished from their ears. The world seemed to stop. Only the newborn's voice filled the air, fragile but alive. The billionaire gasped, his eyes wide with disbelief. Tears streamed down his face as he whispered the baby. "It's our baby." The woman collapsed back, sobbing with relief, her body trembling with exhaustion. Is my baby okay?" Maria's own tears blurred her vision as she gently wrapped the tiny newborn in a towel. Her hands shook, but her heart swelled. She whispered, "Yes, your baby." She placed the baby in the mother's trembling arms. The woman held the child against her chest, sobbing with joy. The baby's cries softened, as if comforted by the heartbeat it had always known. The billionaire fell to his knees beside the bed, kissing his wife's forehead again and again. "You did it. You're alive. Our baby is alive. Thank God. Thank you. Thank you." Maria stood there, her own tears flowing freely. She had never seen such love, such raw emotion. Her heart ached and healed at the same time. The storm still raged outside, but inside, a new light had been born. The battle of life had been fought won. For a few seconds, time itself seemed to stop. The storm roared outside, thunder cracked, rain hammered against the windows, but none of it mattered. Because inside the room, another sound had risen. One so small, yet so powerful, that it drowned out the storm completely. A cry. The baby's first cry? Maria froze, her hands trembling as she held the tiny newborn wrapped in a towel. The sound was sharp, fragile, but alive, so beautifully alive that her own chest ached. She had never heard anything so pure. The billionaire gasped, his hand covering his mouth. His eyes widened, filling with tears faster than he could wipe them away. He whispered, as though he was afraid to break the moment, "That's my child." His wife, lying weakly against the pillows, opened her tear-filled eyes. Her lips trembled as she whispered, "Is it? Is it real? My baby?" Maria swallowed the lump in her throat. She leaned closer, showing the mother the tiny face, pink and wrinkled, crying with all its strength. "Yes," Maria whispered, her voice breaking. "Your baby is here. Safe." The woman's shaky arms reached out, trembling with both weakness and longing. Maria carefully placed the baby onto her chest. The tiny cries softened almost instantly, the newborn settling against the warmth of its mother's heartbeat. The mother sobbed, clutching her child close. "Oh God, thank you. Thank you." The billionaire collapsed onto his knees beside the bed, kissing his wife's forehead again and again. Tears fell onto the sheets as he whispered, "You did it. You gave us life. You're the bravest woman I know." He pressed his lips gently to the baby's head, his whole body shaking with relief. For the first time that night, his voice carried not fear, but wonder. "You're here, my little one. You're really here." Maria stood near the bed, watching them, her own tears streaming freely. She had seen pain, fear, and despair, but this moment was something else. Something holy. Something that made every scream, every desperate prayer worth it. Her chest tightened. She thought of her own mother, long gone. She thought of all the children she had never had, of the family she had lost. For a brief second, she let herself imagine what it would have been like to hold her own baby like this. But she pushed the thought away and focused on the miracle before her. The storm outside continued to roar. But inside the suite, it felt like sunlight had broken through. The baby shifted slightly, letting out another soft cry. Weaker this time. As though the world was too big, too loud. The mother kissed the child's forehead, whispering, "Mama's here. You're safe now." The billionaire's tears dripped onto the tiny towel. He laughed through his sobs. The sound cracked, but full of relief. "Do you hear that? Our baby's first cry. It's the most beautiful sound I've ever heard." Maria covered her mouth, holding back another wave of sobs. She whispered softly, almost to herself, "Life always fights to be heard." Even in the darkest storm, the woman reached out her weak hand toward Maria, her voice shaking. "Thank you. Thank you for not leaving me. For not letting me give up?" Maria grasped her hand gently, shaking her head. "You were the one who fought. I only stayed by your side." But the billionaire looked at Maria with eyes filled with something new respect. His voice was thick as he said, "No. You saved us. You saved my wife. You saved my child. I will never forget this night. Never." Maria's cheeks burned, and she quickly lowered her eyes. She had never imagined such words would come from the lips of a man like him. The baby let out another tiny cry, softer now, and both parents laughed through their tears. They leaned close together, their foreheads touching. The newborn cradled between them. Maria quietly stepped back, giving them space. She stood by the window, her heart heavy but strangely light. The storm continued to beat against the glass, but in her mind, all she could hear was that first cry. It was a sound she knew she would carry in her heart forever. The storm outside finally began to slow. The thunder grew distant, the rain softened, and the furious wind that had rattled the hotel windows seemed to tire out. But inside the suite, another storm had already passed and left behind something far more powerful. The baby slept soundly against its mother's chest, tiny breaths rising and falling in rhythm with her heartbeat. The woman, though pale and weak, wore a soft smile through her exhaustion. Her trembling hand stroked the baby's tiny head, as though she was still convincing herself that the child was real. The billionaire sat at her side, unable to take his eyes off the two of them. His expensive suit was wrinkled, his hair damp from sweat, but none of that mattered. His entire world was lying in that bed, his wife alive, his child alive. Tears still clung to his lashes as he whispered, "I thought I was going to lose everything tonight. But instead, I gained more than I ever imagined." His wife turned her tired eyes toward him, whispering softly, "We almost didn't make it." He shook his head quickly, pressing her hand against his cheek. "No, you made it. You fought harder than anyone could." And his gaze shifted to Maria. "You didn't fight alone." Maria froze where she stood near the window. She had been trying to stay quiet, not to intrude on the intimacy of the moment. But when his eyes fell on her, her heart raced. The billionaire's wife followed his gaze. Her weak smile deepened as tears slipped down her cheeks. "Maria, you stayed with me when I had no strength left. You didn't let me give up." Maria swallowed hard, her hands tightening on the cloth she held. "I only did what anyone would have done. The billionaire shook his head firmly. No, not anyone. You chose to risk everything. You chose to fight with us, even when you were terrified. That takes more courage than most people will ever know. Maria lowered her eyes, embarrassed. She wasn't used to being praised especially, not by people like them. In her world, she was invisible. Just a maid in a uniform, someone who came and went without notice. Yet tonight, she had been seen. Truly seen. The woman motioned weakly with her hand. Come closer, Maria. Hesitantly, Maria stepped forward. The mother shifted slightly, revealing the sleeping baby. Look, you helped bring this life into the world. In a way, this child belongs to you too. Maria's breath caught in her chest. She stared at the tiny face, the little mouth slightly open, the delicate hands curled into fists. A warmth spread through her heart, melting every wall she had built around herself. Her eyes stung as she whispered, so small, so perfect. The woman smiled through her exhaustion. Would you like to hold the baby? Maria's eyes widened. Me? No. She shook her head quickly. I might drop, the billionaire interrupted gently, his voice soft but steady. You won't. If there is anyone I trust to hold my child tonight, it's you. Slowly, carefully, Maria extended her arms. The mother placed the tiny bundle into them, and Maria's whole body froze. The baby was so light, yet the weight felt heavier than anything she'd ever carried. She stared down at the little face, tears spilling freely. The child shifted slightly, letting out a small sigh, and Maria's lips trembled into a smile. In that moment, something inside her broke and healed at the same time. She had spent her life being unseen, overlooked, treated as ordinary. But holding that child, she felt extraordinary. The billionaire and his wife watched her quietly, their eyes soft. They knew this night had changed them, but they could see it had changed Maria too. After a long silence, Maria gently placed the baby back into the mother's arms. Her voice was almost a whisper. Thank you for trusting me. I will never forget this night. The mother kissed her child's forehead. Neither will we. The billionaire nodded slowly. This storm will pass, but what you did tonight, that will stay with us forever. A night that began with fear became a night of life because of you. Maria turned back toward the window. The storm clouds were breaking, letting in the faintest light of dawn. She pressed her hand to her chest, feeling the steady beat of her heart. Yes, this was truly a night that changed everything. The first light of dawn crept through the heavy curtains, washing the hotel suite in a soft golden glow. The storm had finally passed, leaving behind silence broken only by the quiet breaths of the newborn sleeping against its mother's chest. Maria stood near the window, her eyes fixed on the pale sky slowly brightening. She felt the weight of exhaustion in every bone, but inside her heart there was a warmth she had never known before. Behind her, the billionaire sat on the edge of the bed, his arm gently around his wife. His once proud posture was bent with relief, his face softened by the night's events. The woman, though pale and weak, looked peaceful as she kissed the baby's tiny head. For a long while, no one spoke. They were caught in the silence of miracles, where words felt too small. Finally, the billionaire's voice broke the quiet. Maria, she turned, startled. His gaze held hers, steady and sincere. Don't call me sir. Not anymore. After tonight, you are not just a maid. You are part of this story, part of our family's life. Maria's lips parted in shock, her eyes lowered quickly. I only did what I had to. Anyone would have known, the billionaire interrupted firmly. Not anyone. People walk past each other every day without caring. But you stayed. You carried us through the darkest night. His wife nodded weakly, her voice soft but filled with emotion. Maria, when I thought I would die, it was your voice that kept me alive. You gave me strength when I had none. Maria's throat tightened. She blinked back tears, whispering, I was so scared. I thought I would fail you. The billionaire leaned forward, his voice deep but gentle. But you didn't. You succeeded. And for that, my family will always owe you more than words can ever repay." Maria's heart raced. She was not used to such words, not from people like them. She looked down at her hands, rough from years of scrubbing floors and changing sheets, and wondered how those hands had been trusted with life itself. The baby stirred slightly, letting out a tiny whimper. Maria's eyes softened as she watched the mother soothe the child. She couldn't help but smile, though her chest ached with a strange longing. The billionaire noticed her quiet gaze. He exchanged a look with his wife, then turned back to Maria. "Would you hold the baby again?" Maria shook her head quickly. "No, I shouldn't." The woman extended her arms, smiling faintly. "Please, you were the first person to touch my child. It feels wrong if you don't hold the baby again now, in peace." Slowly, almost in disbelief, Maria stepped forward. She took the baby carefully into her arms, her whole body still trembling from the memory of the night. The baby was warm, soft, fragile. Maria stared down at the tiny face, her heart overflowing. A tear slipped down her cheek as she whispered, "So small. Yet you fought so hard to be here." The billionaire's wife reached out and touched Maria's hand gently. "Maybe one day, when this child is older, you will tell them the story of the maid who saved their life." Maria's lips trembled. She shook her head quickly, whispering, "Don't call me that. I wasn't brave. I was just there." The billionaire's voice was quiet but steady. "Sometimes being there is the bravest thing of all." Maria hugged the baby closer for a moment, then carefully placed the child back into the mother's arms. Her chest felt heavy, but it wasn't sadness. It was something deeper, something she didn't have words for. The sun rose higher, filling the room with light. The storm's shadow faded, replaced by warmth. And in that light, the three of them sat together, not as billionaire, wife, and maid, but as survivors of a night that had bound their souls forever. It was the dawn of new bonds. The sun rose higher, painting the sky in soft shades of pink and gold. The storm had passed completely now, leaving the city washed clean, as though the world itself had been reborn along with the child. Inside the hotel suite, silence reigned. Not the heavy silence of fear, but the peaceful hush that follows after great battles. The newborn lay cradled in its mother's arms, asleep once more, while the billionaire sat close beside her. His arm protectively around both, Maria stood a little apart, her back against the wall. Her body ached with exhaustion, but her heart beat with a strange new rhythm. She could hardly believe that only hours ago she had been scrubbing floors and changing sheets. And now she had helped bring life into the world. The billionaire broke the silence. His voice was low, almost reverent. "Last night, I thought I would lose everything. But today, I realize I have more than I ever deserved." His wife, still pale but glowing with maternal light, turned her tired eyes to him. "We made it. We survived." She looked down at the baby in her arms and whispered, "And so did this little one." Maria's lips curved into a faint smile. Though she kept her gaze low, the billionaire glanced toward her. "Maria?" She straightened quickly, as if ready for instructions. "Yes, sir?" He shook his head. "No, don't call me that. You've earned the right to stand beside us, not beneath us." Maria froze, unsure how to respond. Her hands tightened in front of her apron. "I only did what had to be done." His wife's voice came soft, but filled with emotion. "No, Maria, you gave us more than service. You gave us courage when we had none. You gave me hope when I was ready to give up. You gave my child life." Tears pricked Maria's eyes. She shook her head quickly. "I was so afraid. I thought I would fail you." The billionaire leaned forward, his eyes steady. "Courage is not the absence of fear. It's choosing to act even when you are afraid. That's what you did. And because of you, my family is whole." Silence filled the room again, but this time it was heavy with meaning. Maria's heart swelled with emotion she could not name. The baby stirred softly, letting out a tiny sound. The mother kissed its forehead and whispered, "Someday we will tell this child about the night they were born. And in that story, Maria, your name will live forever." Maria's throat tightened. She had spent her life unseen, overlooked, treated as ordinary. But here in this room, she was unforgettable. The billionaire's gaze softened. I want you to stay with us, Maria. Not as a maid, but as part of our lives. We owe you more than wealth can repay, but we can give you something greater. A place where you are never invisible again. Maria's breath caught. She stared at him, stunned. 1,000 thoughts rushed through her mind. Her struggles, her loneliness, her endless work. And now, this. A chance at belonging. Her lips trembled. I don't know what to say. The billionaire's wife reached out her hand weakly. Say yes. Say you will walk with us into tomorrow. Maria hesitated, tears spilling down her cheeks. Finally, she whispered, Yes, I will. The sun flooded the room, brighter now, golden and warm. The baby stirred again, its tiny hand curling against its mother's chest. Maria looked at the child and thought of the night before the cries. The fear, the breaking point, and the miracle that followed. And in her heart, she knew this was not just the end of one night. It was the beginning of everything new. A night of storms had given birth to a dawn of promises, and together